Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Sorry that there hasn't been many uploads lately. My bad. I'll hopefully get back on that soon. But I want to talk about the update that DVD have just released about this current mid chapter that's coming out. So this would be 6.3.0, I think. I think that's right. Honestly, I don't keep track of the numbers. I don't think they really matter too much, but they have released a developer update about the mid chapter patch that's coming soon. And I just want to talk about it because I've already seen a lot of confusion about what it means, what's going on, when things apply, when things don't apply. And I think it's kind of important to talk about it. And yeah, so for this reason today, I'm not gonna like quote the thing word for word because behavior have done what behavior usually do. And they've behaviored it. They've worded it really weird, where it's confusing. You don't quite know what things mean. They kind of not really contradict themselves this time around, which is quite surprising. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense when you read it as it is. So this is kind of my interpretation of it. If you have a different interpretation, please by all means tell me what you think it is, what it means. If you have a different opinion to what I do, because I might be interpreting this wrong as well. We'll never know until we actually play the thing. So the other day, Behavior tweeted this, which was a bit confusing and a bit kind of exciting actually, because you know with the recent updates we've had within like the last couple of chapters, a lot of stuff's been leaked. So having something that we didn't really know what it meant was actually quite exciting for me anyway. Like, I don't know, I feel like we've been missing a lot of the elements of like what's coming next for behavior lately and from 4DB and chapters and stuff. So having them tweet something kind of ominous was like, oh, going on with that. So yeah, I was quite excited and I was kind of racking my brain thinking, what could this possibly be? And I had the thought the other day when it kind of came out that, oh, what if it's the Mori thing they talked about? So back before the anniversary that they had this year, like they had a big anniversary stream, they showed us a roadmap of things that they wanted to implement into the game, and one of them was like a finishing Mori, a bit like kind of Mortal Kombat style, like you have your finisher, your final kill sort of thing. And I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't too set on the idea of that in the first place, and I'm with how it is now, I'm still not too set on it. But they did release the patch notes today, and that is basically what it is. It's the finishing Mori and something else as well. You probably have already heard it, so that put me really trying to tease it. Unbreakable will be base kit, kinda. We'll talk more on that anyway. The finishing Mori is going to be a last survivor standing sort of thing. So when you're down the last survivor standing, you go into an immediate Mori. They said that in the patch notes that it's going to be in a certain point of every map, so you don't really get to choose where it is. So that I don't know, you can kind of see the whole thing quite clearly. It's not like you get blocked by a wall, as a lot of Moris tend to be, blocked by a wall, a bush, or something. So it's not going to be that. It's going to be like in a preset place on every single map, which I think will reduce some bugs, potentially with it. Maybe we'll see its behavior. So yeah, the last survivor gets downed, or last survivor standing gets down. I'm gonna like keep saying last survivor standing because that is quite important. The last survivor standing gets downed and moried, and that's the end of the game, basically. It's not just for endgame, from what I've gathered. It is for the entire game. It's not just endgame. I've seen some people say that they think it's for endgame, but there's nothing in the update to me that says endgame. It feels like any time. So I think that's how that is. But if you think differently, please let me know why. So what does last survivor standing actually mean? So they have said that it's when everyone is either hooked, dead, dying, which means slugged, or have already escaped. So in theory, one person's hooked, one person's slugged, one person's dead, and you're the last person alive. There are still two other survivors alive, technically. One's just on hook and one's on the floor. But at that moment, you are then the last survivor standing, regardless, because you're the last one up. You got the new perk, I think it's Ada's perk. I can't remember what it's called for the life of me, but like you leave no scratch marks and pools of blood sort of thing. You're also the last survivor standing then. Same sort of rules apply. So even though you're not the last survivor in the whole match that's alive, you are still the last survivor standing. So if you got downed, Insta-Mori. But what happens to the people on the hook and on the floor? Well, they die. Basically, it's an automatic sacrifice, and that's kind of what they said, is like when the last survivor gets moried, last survivor standing gets moried, everyone else just gets kind of sacrificed as it usually would. I guess like endgame clap sort of style, they get sacrificed, actually. Not too sure how it was going to go, we didn't get much information on that. But here's my problem with that. You're not really the last survivor standing, are you? There's two people alive. There are two people still alive in the game. So you're not really the last survivor, you're the last survivor standing, sure, but what about someone on the hook that maybe has a chance to Kobe to 4% and get off the hook? Or about the fact that there's going to be a base kit Unbreakable for the person on the floor to get up with? So the base kit Unbreakable I'm unsure on how it's going to work. They've said that after 45 seconds of being slugged on the floor, so being in the dying state, you then have the ability to get up. And that's basic it for everyone across the whole game, from start of the game to the end of the game. If you get slugged in the first minute, you're gonna Unbreakable. If you get slugged in the end game collapse, you're gonna Unbreakable. But the thing that I don't quite understand with that, though, is they've said that the perks that help with the recovery speed, such as Unbreakable, even Boon Exponential, No Mither helps a little bit, I believe. With those perks, that would change the timer, so it's 45 seconds. So does that mean that you recover quicker and you can Unbreakable with base kit quicker as well? And if so, how quicker? Or how much quicker? We don't quite know the information yet. They didn't really give us that stuff, which again, behaviour. I'm not surprised. But that kind of begs the question of, if you're the last survivor standing, but there's someone still slugged on the floor, maybe someone's on hook, or maybe 2 people are slugged on the floor, maybe 3 people are slugged on the floor, because you know there are killers that do slug for the 4K and slug everyone for it. Those people could still have the chance to get up with the base kit Unbreakable. It doesn't matter if they have the perk anymore, they could still have the chance to get up. So why, when that person is downed, does everyone just die? That doesn't make much sense to me. When they've added this thing in the game to stop people from getting slugged and to not make it like the be all and end all if they're the only person on the floor without Unbreakable, why have they then ended the game with that anyway? An example of this is in Gideon Meat Plant, the game map. If you had a Bubba come in, so Leatherface come in, all 4 of you spawned in the bathroom for some reason. All 4 of you have gone there. There's a totem there. There's a 3-man gen. You know, all 4 of you have gone there. Bubba storms in, bringing his chainsaw left, right, and center, and you will get slugged in the first, like, 30 seconds of the game. That's the game over, right? Is that not how it's going to work? In that sense of things? Like, are you not just going to get immediately slugged? This is obviously a very, like, rare thing. I don't think it's happened often, but it has happened to my team before. At least, like, 3 of us got slugged. You know, it has happened. But, like, is that not a thing that's going to happen? So we're going to get, like, the game over in, like, less than a minute? That's going to be really boring. Good for world records, but really boring for both killer and survivor, because nothing really gets done. And, you know, sometimes it does just happen. Because in that case, normally, what would happen is if the Insta-Mori thing for last survivor standing wasn't a thing, the Bubba could easily get 2 people to the basement. The basement's right there. Even if the door isn't open, you can easily just walk through, hook, come back up, walk through, hook again, and come back up. And in that time, one, if not both of the last 2 survivors should have been able to Unbreakable with the base kit Unbreakable. But that's not, it doesn't seem like that's how it's going to work. Because at that point, there is still hope. You know, 4 people are slugged on the floor, they can get up, potentially, because it's going to take longer than 45 seconds for the Bubba to come and hook every single person. But the way that it kind of comes across with this is that as soon as you get downed, you're all just going to die instantly, and that's going to be the game over. So it's interesting to see how that's going to work. I'm not really happy about that. I feel like if they're going to do the Insta-Mori thing with the last survivor standing, it should be when there's only 2 survivors left, in my opinion. So if 2 people are already dead, or 2 people have escaped, or whatever, you know, DC'd, I don't know. If there's 2 people left, 1 person's on the floor or hooked, and the last person gets downed, there's very little chance they can come back from that. So at that point, sure, do the Insta-Mori and everyone just dies. But when everyone's still, like, actually alive and no one's actually fully sacrificed yet in the game, I feel like having the Insta-Mori at that point is going to be quite brutal. So moving on to perks. So they've said in the patch notes, they're changing 3 perks: Unbreakable, Rancor, and Hex Devour Hope. Because, obviously, Rancor and Devour Hope both give you Moris, and Unbreakable helps you get up. They did obviously mention as well, like, any perks that give you like the chance to get up, such as No Mither or No Mither. Sorry, I pronounced that the wrong way. Always do. Sorry about that. No Mither, Boon Exponential, Soul Guard, and Unbreakable. Those 4 perks get you up for the dying state in some sort of way. They're all slightly different terms, but they all do. And they said that the ability to get up has been taken away from those perks completely. So you won't be able to get up, you know. I mean, you will be able to get up because it's base kit, but on the perks on their own, they don't give you the ability to get up with the dying state. So for Unbreakable, how is that going to work? And for Exponential as well, how is that going to work? Because I'm assuming that the recovery speed progress will just, like, shorten the timer. But like I said a little bit earlier, how exactly does that work? Like, does it fully reduce it, or do you just recover quicker? Because my main question is, if you have a 45 seconds base kit Unbreakable, your recovering doesn't take that long. It takes, what, 20 seconds? Correct me if I'm wrong, but recovering from a dying state and being ready to be picked up only takes like 20 seconds, maybe slightly more, maybe slightly less. I'm not actually too sure on the exact number. So if it's 45 seconds for Unbreakable, do you then just spend 25 seconds on the floor slugging around? Or does it take longer now to recover fully? In which case, that's really bad for survivors because it already takes quite a while, especially with anti-healing builds right now, things like that. So does it just take longer to recover, or do you recover fully and then like maybe after 25 seconds you press the action ability button to actually get up? Is that maybe a thing? Which isn't too bad actually. I don't really mind that idea of it. So how does that kind of work? Or do you just automatically get up? Do you not get to pick like how in Prop Night, if you ever played that game, that game you're automatically recovering all the time and you automatically go up regardless of when you wanted to or not? Is it going to be like that instead? It's going to be really interesting to see how that works. But with perks that speed up your recovery, like Boon Exponential, like Unbreakable, even though Mither I think increases it by 25%, I could be wrong by that, but I think it increases it slightly. Does that actually affect the timer for how quickly you can Unbreakable? And if not, what's the point in running those perks if you're just going to be slugged for the same amount of time until you can Unbreakable yourself anyway? You know what I mean? Kind of seems a bit weird. They didn't really say much about it either, so I'm interested to see how it works. There's also been a slight buff to Unbreakable because they've obviously taken away the main point of the perk. So it's going up to 80%, 90%, or 100% at tier 3 extra recovery speed. So I think that's what Boon Exponential was anyway. So what's that going to go to? Is that going to be the same? Because if then, what's the point of going for Exponential over Unbreakable when it's only a certain radius? They need to do something to Exponential to change it and to differentiate it from Unbreakable. I'm hoping they are, because they didn't really mention much about it. But yeah, I'm just confused as to how that's going to work. We'll have to see, obviously, at the PTB what happens. Also, on the point of no Mither, what's the point in it? What is the point now in no Mither? Because the whole, like, appeal of it was, yeah, sure, you're broken for the entire game. You don't leave pools of blood, which is kind of pretty good, and you're a bit quieter now, which is also pretty good. And I think I'm pretty sure you recover quicker. I could be wrong. But the whole kind of appeal of using that perk was being able to get up from the dying state. So I hope to see that we get a little bit of a change for no Mither now, because it doesn't seem like enough anymore. Like, it was rare you got the value, fair enough. It was kind of rare. But the whole, like, appeal of using that perk and being injured the whole time is that you had this massive, like, advantage where you could unlimited, like, recover from the dying state. And that was a really good thing. Soul Guard, I feel like the main appeal of it over Unbreakable was when it's a hex. Obviously, you could, like, completely unlimited get up from the dying state. But also you can take a hit. So Soul Guard I don't think has been changed too much. It's mainly just like Exponential and no Mither that I'm really wanting to see them change something with. Unbreakable, I think it's okay as it is. I think people might still use it as long as it works in the sense that you get up like the 45 seconds as lessened for the base kit. As long as it works like that, I think it's fine. But for the killer perks though, for Rancor, it's not really a change. So basically all it's gonna be is that you're obsessed with someone, you see the aura every time a gen's done, as it always is, kind of like Bitter Murmur style. You see their aura, they see your aura, and then at the end game you see the aura, I think for the same amount of time, I think it's like 10 seconds or something. They're exposed, but you just can't Mori them. So it's the exact same as it already is, but there's just no built-in Mori because we have the finisher Moris now. So basically any perk that had a Mori in it, I think there's only like 3 of them anyway, they are just not going to have a Mori anymore. So they're slightly nerfed, ever so slightly nerfed. At least Rancor is. Devour I think has a pretty big-ish nerf, to be honest. It's like, it's not massive, and it's obviously needed to kind of balance out the quality changes of the game. But Devour, at your 3 stacks, usually you'd get the insta-downs, and at your 5 stacks, usually you'd be able to Mori the Survivor. The 3 stacks isn't changing, you're still going to just insta-down them if you get 3 stacks to Devour straight away. But for 5 stacks, the Survivor will just die instantly on hook and be sacrificed. So if you'd managed to somehow get around with no hooks by the time the killer's got 5 stacks to Devour, maybe you've just been stealthing, I don't know, maybe you kind of outrun them. If you get to 5 stacks of Devour and you hook that person, they'll just die instantly regardless of whatever stage they're on before. But the reason I think this is a big nerf is because you can't just Mori them on the spot. You now have to pick them up and take them to a hook. And in that, there's chances for flashlight saves, Sabo plays, body blocking. I mean, body blocking against Devour. Yikes. But you know, there's chance for body blocking anyway. There's a few different things you can do, like flip-flop power struggle saves or like boil over like plays. There's ways that survivors can now avoid, you know, the insta death that you get from 5 stacks to Devour. So now I feel like the 5 stacks feels lessened. I don't think they should make it down to 4 stacks because that would be a bit too strong. I think having 3 and 5 is very good at differentiating it a little bit. But it is a bit of a nerf, and I don't think they really thought of that. Maybe they did think of that. I mean, there wasn't really many other ways they could have changed it. As well as that, though, I mean, there's been times before when I've been running Devour, I've downed someone, and then just before I started the Mori, Devour popped, and I wasn't able to start the Mori. And that's like when the downed to me going for the Mori. So having to carry them from like wherever you down them to a hook also gives more time for someone to get rid of Devour, especially at 5 seconds. They're going to be very aware of it at that point, more chance to potentially find it. So that might also like fuck you out of the, you know, the 5th stack insta death on the hook. So it's actually quite a big change for Hex Devour Hope, in my opinion. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it works. I'm not going to be as scared of it now because I'm not going to get scared. I'm not going to be scared of getting Mori'd unless they slug everyone, which is a possibility. And as long as I'm not the last one to be slugged, I'm not going to get Mori'd. So I feel like people can have a bit more of a risky play when it comes to Devour at that point, but we'll have to see how that goes. Leading on to that, we have got the Mori offerings. We've got the Cypress Mori, the Ebony Mori, and Memento Mori. There you go. I always forget the one of them. These things aren't really going to be a thing anymore. They're not. Well, they're going to be offerings in the game still. I want to just actually read out what they say they're going to be on the patch notes themselves because it's kind of confusing. So for Cypress Memento Mori, which is the it's Ivory Mori. Never mind, I'm dumb. Cypress Memento Mori, which is a yellow one. You gain 8,000 blood points if at least 2 survivors are killed and the match ends in a finishing Mori. So if basically someone doesn't escape, you're going to get finishing Mori. An Ivory Memento Mori, green one. You gain 12,000 blood points if at least 3 survivors are killed and the match ends in a finishing Mori. And an Ebony Memento Mori, which is a pink one / red one, whatever one you think it is. You gain 20,000 blood points if at least 4 survivors are killed and the match ends in a finishing Mori. I don't particularly like the kill aspect of this, especially for the fact that Ebony Moris are obviously a lot harder to get. They're a lot rarer because they're like iridescent quality. So having to get a 4K with that, I think is going to encourage a lot of like kind of sweaty plays, slugging for the 4K. And yes, fair enough, slugging for the 4K is going to be more difficult, but it's still going to be possible. And I feel like it's going to be encouraging the sweaty play. I feel like maybe like a 3 kill for that, and then like a Cypress Mori as long as it ends, like a Cypress Memento Mori, as long as it ends in a finishing Mori, you should get the blood points. Either Memento Mori, a 2K, potentially, and an Ebony Memento Mori, maybe just a 3K, or maybe just keep it as a 2K. I think a 3K is fine. I feel like having it that you have to get a 4K for that not only is kind of difficult because of the fact that, like, I don't know about you, but you know how you get the whole like deliverance curse where if you run deliverance, you're always the first one hooked. For me, whenever I run a Ebony Mori, the pink one, I never get like any hooks. Like I get like maybe 2 hooks the whole game. It's kind of the curse if you run like something that you have to do something for. The game never normally goes the way you want it to. So I feel like it's going to just encourage sweaty plays. And fair enough, it's 20,000 blood points. You kind of need to work for that. But I feel like a 3K is fine because what if there's a hatch play? What if someone just does manage to escape whilst, you know, you're hooking someone else? I feel like the Ebony is going to encourage some dirty play styles. And yeah, I'm not too sure about how to think about that. And also, as well as that, I thought behavior of getting rid of the whole blood point incentives for things. I know we still have blood point offerings and stuff, but that's a lot of blood points. Considering they've, one, increased our blood point cap, they've reduced the cost of things in the blood web in general. They have changed the prestige system recently. I feel like having potentially like the chance to get 20,000 extra blood points, that's like 50% extra blood points on what you can earn maximum per match. That's a lot of blood points that you could be getting. And yeah, they're trying to reduce the grind, but they also took away kind of other incentives like barbecue stacks and we're gonna live forever stacks and things like that. So I'm wondering why they made that decision to do such a high amount of blood points. Maybe to make it worth running. It also kind of begs the question, if Moris are going to be in the game no matter what, I pretty much guess that like maybe 8 out of 10 games are going to end in a Mori. Are they going to keep the Mori offerings a secret? Because as mainly a survivor main, it would be nice to know if the killer's bringing an Ebony Mori so I know if they're going to be sweaty or not, you know? It would be nice to know that. That's actually a thing as well. Say, for example, you end in a finishing Mori for like an Ebony Mori. You end in a finishing Mori, but one person still got out. You just kind of wasted a whole offering. You don't get any blood points for that. I feel like it should be like for a certain amount of kills, you should get some sort of blood points, right? Maybe. So like for the yellow one, you get 2,000 blood points per kill or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of how they've done the offerings. The final thing I just want to kind of question is when it comes to your dailies or tome challenges where you have to kill a survivor by your own hand, which is a Mori, if you didn't actually know that, what that meant, what's going to happen to them? Because almost every single game, like I said, is going to have a Mori. There's going to be very easy challenges. They're already fairly easy with all the perks and the Moris that we genuinely have anyway. How is that going to work when it comes to this? Because, like I said, there's possibly going to be a Mori almost every single game now, after this update. So, are they still going to have that as a daily? They're going to remove it? They're going to replace it with something else? Like, what are they going to do exactly for those dailies and those tome challenges? All questions I have no idea the answer to. It's going to have to just be interesting to see what happens with it. So my overall opinion on this, I guess, is I'm not a fan. I think it's going to be removing some interesting gameplay. I think it's going to be removing, like, you know, maybe someone's wiggling off, like the last survivor. They've got 2 people on hook, for example. You get downed, but you wiggle off and you manage to go and get the unhook, and you manage to get the other unhook, and you manage to all get out. It's going to be removing, like, a really exciting, like, end gameplay, or like the massive comeback that some survivors can get during the game. I think it's going to be removing a lot of exciting gameplay. Also, it's probably going to remove, like, how some killers maybe slug someone because they want to give them hatch, but then if they pick up the last person, are they going to instantly, like, Mori them? That's actually a question too. Like, if someone's already on the floor and maybe you grab someone out of a locker and you hook them, do you just snap to Moring the person that's on the floor? But yeah, it kind of means that you're not really going to be able to do hatch plays as easy as you used to be able to. You kind of just have to, like, let them stay up, but then sometimes they'll get flashlight saves and kind of fuck you up, and then things like that. So I think it's going to be removing some, like, fun gameplay, some kind of wholesome gameplay, and I don't really know how I feel about it. Like I said at the very beginning of this video, or like kind of early in the video, I feel like if they did it for where there's only 2 survivors left, if 2 survivors have already either left the game, or, like, escaped or have died, I feel like having the last survivor standing phase settle in when there's 2 survivors left instead of the whole team. I feel like that might be a little bit more fair on the way that this works, and I still feel like it's going to get a lot of final Mori value out of that. I still feel like we'll see a lot of Moris because a lot of games do tend to end in at least like a 2k, right? I mean, I would assume so anyway. A 2 or 3k is kind of what a lot of games tend to end in. So I feel like it's not going to be that unreasonable for that to happen. I kind of hope that, you know, the PTB goes well, and I hope that a lot of people put their feedback in, and I hope that behavior keeps track of the feedback, and kind of act on it, because we know from experience that they don't tend to do a lot when it comes to taking on board feedback from the players. But we will just have to wait and see for the PTB. They have said it'll be next week, so I'm assuming it's going to be next Tuesday, the 27th of September. They usually release it around 4:30 p.m. UK time, which I think for, like, their time zone, I think it's EST. I think that's like 11 o'clock, 11:30. Something along those lines. It's usually around that time. I'm not exactly too sure. They'll probably tweet about it on the day of. So yeah, we'll have to just see what happens with this, and I don't know. There'll be a lot of testing. I'm definitely going to be testing the bubba thing in like the game bathroom. We're going to, like, get a custom game going and just try that out because I really want to see how it goes. Another thing to note as well is that the perk changes, like the perk updates, won't be like updated on the descriptions in the PTB. They have said that in the patch notes. But as well as this is the mid-chapter update, or it's meant to be the mid-chapter update. But although we're getting a PTB for the mid-chapter, this update isn't rolling out in 3.6.0. They've said that they're going to be rolling it out later on because the feature isn't quite ready, and that makes me nervous because if the feature isn't ready yet right now, be released in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, what's the PTB going to be like? Because the PTB is usually from like a save 2 weeks prior. So if the PTB was launched today, it probably would have been more from like the start of September, their progress then. So how many bugs are there going to be? There's going to be I'm guaranteeing there's going to be a lot of bugs if Mori's not starting, Mori's maybe not finishing, or like, I don't know. I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of bugs, so be prepared for a lot of bugs in PTB. But yeah, 27th of September, it should be. That's next Tuesday. But yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts on this. How do you think this is going to impact the game? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you just kind of like waiting and seeing and just trying to be a bit optimistic that it's going to be good for the game? What are your thoughts on it? If you've interpreted any of what I've said in the video differently to how kind of like I've interpreted to the notes, like what have you found? Like, what do you think instead? What do you see in a different light to what I do? I'd love to know your feedback, so please put them in the comments. But yeah, that is it from me today, guys. Thank you so much for popping by and for watching. If you like the video, please give me a like, leave any comments down below that I've already asked for, and you know, if you want to stick around and see more content, feel free to sub. Cool, have a good day, be safe, and I don't know, bye.